Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm a Boeing 737 pilot and a member of PMDG's tech team. PMDG have just released the latest updates for the Boeing 737 on the 2nd of November 2022. Let's quickly cover what this change is about and why some of the stuff has been done the way it's been done. So, looking at the overall changelog, we see a little bit of stuff done in the virtual cockpit, but the primary changes are definitely on the autoflight director system, bringing a lot more stability within the rather unstable atmosphere of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and a reworked autothrottle that is also going to provide you some much greater realism. Now, I will have separate videos covering some of those autothrottle changes coming up in the next 1 or 2 days. So stay tuned for those if you want me to show you some of the new features that have been built in the meantime as well. Let's quickly go over the changelog for this update. The one and only systems update here on the hydraulic, the engine-driven low pressure lights come on too late during start. That's been fixed. Also for the shutdown, by the way. The auto-flight pitch modes, level change down, provision for Flight Simulator atmosphere burst, pumping the pitch up and down. You've probably seen that happen in the 737 already, where the nose has been going up and down whenever the aircraft's been in some very light turbulence. That's been fixed. The autothrottle has been refined for SU10 turbulence. A new autothrottle mode system has been introduced. Now that is running totally in the background there, so don't be surprised if you don't see any of that. So there is not like a new autothrottle mode available on the MCP or something, but that is running in the background, providing a much better autothrottle response. And some oscillations when using vertical speed for descent have been solved as well. Now, that is what it says in the changelog. What I can tell you is that quite a lot of work went into the actual internals there that would be very hard to actually phrase properly in changelog. So, overall, every single channel of the autopilot has gotten attention there and has been made a lot more reliable. So, while the changelog only mentions those 4 items, the overall autothrottle and autopilot behaviors are very much revised, and you should see a much more stable flying autopilot. Then, going on to a couple of fixes in the virtual cockpit, some clipping and assorted fines have been solved, just like a small gap on the ceiling of the cockpit, and some vertices have been cleaned up there. Now, the FMC has seen some fixes with time differences around 0 o'clock UTC. And finally, there have been some provisions introduced for stability with known Sim Update 11 changes. Keep in mind, Sim Update 11 is supposed to release on the 11th of November, so that's not very far off. And in the post that Robert made together with the released updates, he went a little bit into some more details there, basically saying that they are standing by for some emergency fixes should they become necessary, because the Sim Update 11 SDK is not yet capable of exporting a C++ and WASM project, and therefore the 737 could only have been tested as compiled in Sim Update 10 in the Sim Update 11 beta. So should any problems arise there with the release of Sim Update 11, PMDG is on standby to provide fixes as quickly as possible. Now, let's go a little bit more into detail about why some of those autopilot changes have actually been necessary. And I'm going to quote mostly from Robert Randazzo's update post here, so let's go ahead about it. Quote, "One of the things that is really hard to accomplish in simulation at any level is a realistic model of fluidity, pressure, stability and instability in the atmospheric model. The influence that all of these factors have on the stability of an aircraft in flight has been a holy grail in mathematical simulation since the advent of the first flight simulators, and even the much revered training simulators that of many of us train and retrain in each year fail to do it well enough to be convincing to pilots with even modest experience." I'll quickly chime in here with a small statement from myself, and that is actually quite true. When flying the 737 full flight simulator, obviously with the original Boeing data, you definitely notice that there are some huge differences in the flight model. Like in the Boeing simulator, you can really see that it is a computed flight model, as in the airplane responds exactly by the numbers, and the airplane responds, let's just call it, unnatural in times. So that is what Robert refers to over here, and that is something that in an entertainment simulator like Microsoft Flight Simulator will be rather hard to actually overcome. Now, Microsoft has gone to some levels of atmospheric instability that are definitely overdone, so the autopilot needs to overcorrect as well. Alright, I'll go on here quoting. So, one of the things we take great pride in at PMDG is our ability to adapt our work so that it yields accurate results within the simulated environment. This is not a simple task and takes many iterations of change, lots of testing and heaping portions of patience, especially in a simulation platform that is changing even as we work. What we have focused on during the past few months is to improve the core capability of our MSFS product line to allow the airplane's control law logic to manage atmospheric instability gracefully without making itself obvious to the user. Most sim pilots are completely unaware that their PMDG products for the past 17 years have been fly-by software, with a very complicated computational process leveraging the capabilities of the simulator in order to yield appropriate results. This core logic required a huge update to deal with the far more dynamic environment of MSFS when compared to, say, P3D. It has taken some time, but we have made significant progress with it lately, and this update brings us much more closer to where we want the package to be. In the MSFS environment, modeling is excellent in very many regards, but it also provides some levels of mathematical instability that would be truly terrifying if you hit them in real life. We have adapted the 737 to manage these moments so that they are not disruptive to the flying experience and still yield a realistic result. This required a comprehensive restudy of the control logic used in the actual plane, with adaptation for extremes. It has been a fantastic exercise, and we think you will notice the result right away as improved stability in roll, pitch, and now also in the thrust channel. That isn't to say you can't find scenarios in the environment that won't cause some instability for the airplane, but it is capable of flying through them and returning the airplane properly to stability without excessive distortion, provided that the unrealistic disturbance are momentary and not continuous. We found some spots where it is possible to see the airplane go from minus 0.3 to plus 1.5 G in the span of milliseconds, which if you experienced in real life would convince you that perhaps travel by train is much saner option for soft, plump humans. One of the nice aspects of this work is that it is entirely dynamic, so changes to the MSFS atmosphere shouldn't upend the system theoretically. Although we haven't seen how thermals are being implemented yet, they are due out next week, we shall see. And other fixes included a few sweep-up details, but we are mostly focused on the 900 and tablet implementation. The tablet goes into testing this week, and the 900 probably a week from Friday. Stay tuned here for more information. Things are progressing nicely, and we are very much appreciating your participation in the community. One note of caution. We are all watching the Sim Update 11 timeline, and we are comfortable that the 737 is compatible with the beta version we are currently testing. By compatible, we mean that it runs normally and behaves as expected. The Sim Update 11 SDK is not yet capable of exporting a C++ WASM project, and we are eagerly awaiting the next SDK update so that we can look at fixing and updating some of the behaviors reported to be unlocked per SU11 SDK, such as active pause for example. We are all standing by to dive into any emergency fixes that might appear once the final Sim Update 11 lands, if necessary. Quote end. Alright, so there you got it. That is the update that has just been released for the PMDG Boeing 737. Now, I'm going to cover a couple of the, let's call it, more important fixes in some separate videos where I'm going to show you some of the new realism features that have been implemented on a more subtle level in the autopilot. Stay tuned for those. I'm sure that you're gonna love it because they really bring the airplane a lot closer to reality. But for now, Head out to the PMDG Operations Center to download the updates, or if you want to, you can download the latest installer from your PMDG website. Now, thank you very much for watching, and as always, if you do want to support the channel, you can do so through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Let me know what you think about the update in the comments. And finally, if you did like the video, leave it a like as well. Thank you very much for joining, and I hope that I'm going to see you all very, very soon again.